Hi, Michael.
Megan, what's going on?
I think I was nominated today to do this with you because I need the education most of all on the topic we're going to cover today.
That's awesome. No, I'm always excited to do these sort of Q&As back and forth with. No, I've done a lot with Raina, I've done a lot with John, but I think this might be the first one we do together, I think.
I think it might be the first one on like a real subject matter topic that I've ever been nominated for. I'm not sure if I'm honored or frightened by that.
It'll be easy. It'll be easy, but it's a really cool article. And if anyone hasn't seen it yet, take a look at it. It's on our blog on the canterpath.com/blog page. And I think it's been shared to my LinkedIn, to John LinkedIn. So find it in a couple different spots.
Yeah, it was very informative. So let's just get right to it. The topic today is the yuan going to be threatening the US dollar at the top reserve currency?
Yeah, so this question has come out a lot from clients, different people in the community that we serve, and people are really concerned because recently there was a news headline, or actually several headlines, about different countries around the world beginning to trade or wanting to trade in different currencies other than the US dollar. And one headline in particular was about the Chinese trading with the Saudis for oil in the yuan or the renminbi, which is the Chinese national currency. Now, historically, oil is traded or settled in US dollars. So the idea that potentially other countries are going to begin trading outside of US dollars naturally makes for some great headlines. But before we really dive into that, I think it's important to understand, what is actually a reserve currency.
Yes, absolutely. Can you answer that question for us?
Yeah, so a a reserve currency is really designated by the IMF or the International Monetary Fund, and this is a quasi-governmental agency that is backed, primarily by the United States in a lot of ways, but it's outside of anyone's individual jurisdiction, and it's basically there to promote trade and currency stability across countries because we live in a very globalized world where if you want to trade with each other, how do you pay for your goods comes up all the time. So the IMF has set out a couple different currencies which have reserve status, meaning that different banks around the world, the US Federal Reserve, the Saudi National Bank, the People's Bank of China, the Russian Bank, all these different banks hold different amounts of currencies in their reserves globally. So and the IMF sets what they consider a prime basket or what the best mix is. And currently today, and these numbers change frequently, the US makes up about 58 to 60% of that basket. The euro slides in about 20%. The pound is in there as well. And recently, within the past 10 or so years, the IMF has added the Chinese yuan or renminbi to this basket, though it's only about 2.7% of the overall basket. And this is just a basket that the IMF says these are your global reserve currencies, kind of dictated by global trade to a certain degree.
Wow.
But one of the main tenets of being a reserve currency is somewhat logistical, right? Because if you're going to trade with different people, you're going to need to convert your local currency into the currency of other people.
Right.
One of the things that keeps the yuan or the renminbi from being a larger piece of the basket is that it is what's considered not convertible. It's a non convertible currency, whereas the United States dollar is a convertible currency.
Okay.
One of the interesting things about that, and it just set some ground rules on convertible versus non convertible, is essentially that a non convertible currency is, as it sounds, is not easily translated to another currency. So, what does that mean? The Chinese currency, the yuan, um, is controlled by the People's Bank of China. And they control this in what's called a managed peg or a managed band. So they set every single day how far that currency can float relative to the US dollar. So it's something like, and don't quote me on this, but something like 6.8 yuan to every US dollar is about where it is today, but it may be able to float between 6.7 and 6.9 on any given day. And the
Okay.
PBOC will move this for different economic or geopolitical reasons. And let's say that you are an investor and you have holdings in China and you want to convert your Chinese currency holdings to US dollars. Well, you can only move so much of those at any given point to dollars as part of this banded currency thing.
Okay. So it's
And
limited
it's
to what you
limited.
can. So if you were traveling to China and you needed to get some yuan while you're there, that's different.
Yeah, so but that's part of it because
Okay.
you can't just go to any bank and get an unlimited amount of yuan. You have to go through specific intermediaries and you're allowed to get specific amounts. And it's very restricted. And one of the concerns or the downsides, if you're the Bank of Mexico and you're holding billions of dollars of yuan and you have an economic reason to convert that to dollars or to euros, you may not be able to convert all of that at one period of time because the People's Bank of China may not allow you to.
Got
And
it.
that is a big concern of many people or of many economic groups, many countries, because then you're stuck holding a currency that you may not want to for some reason.
I see.
If you compare that to something like the US dollar or the euro, they are freely convertible. You can go to a bank at any point and convert those currencies.
Okay.
You can go onto the open market and you can convert it on exchanges. You can go through different venues, different dealers, and convert and change your currency freely, which means you have the ability at any point to go from peso to dollar to whatever the other currency is. That makes it much more comfortable to hold because at any given point, if you need to change it, you can. Whereas the yuan, you're subject to the government's whims on how much you can and can't change at any given time.
Right. So I guess the main question then today, to get to the bottom line, is do you think the yuan will ever become convertible currency and challenge the US dollar's dominance?
The yuan faces an uphill battle against the US dollar and becoming convertible. And it's not even so much that people would not want to own more of it because the Chinese is, depending on how you slice them, they are the largest or second largest economy on the planet behind or next to the United States. So there's demand for the Chinese currency. But as the Chinese, if they were to make the band wider or allow the Chinese currency to fluctuate more freely or remove the dollar peg to it, that removes a large extent of the Chinese Communist Party power over their economy. I'm not saying that's good or bad for them, not trying to dust anything up here, but you know, if you allow the economy to move more freely, that goes in counter to what some of the Communist Party's priorities are. So they are really in this balancing act of wanting to control things, but also wanting to have more place on the world stage. And to have more place on the world stage, they need a freer currency, but a freer currency would relinquish the hold they have at home. So, like I said, they're going to have an uphill battle to get there. And simply a couple of headlines or a couple of different deals happening is not enough to disrupt the US's dominance as a reserve currency. And it's probably not going to happen for a period of time. Could it? Sure, down the road. But it's going to take a lot of economic reforms in China to really get us to that point.
Right. Got it. Well, this has been very educational. Thank you, Michael. I always learn so much from you and enjoyed this conversation. Maybe I'll get nominated to do another one in the future.
Awesome. Well, it's always good talking to you, Megan. And like I said, for anyone that's listening and wants to read the article, it's on our blog, it's on some of our LinkedIn pages, and always feel free to reach out to myself or Matt or John for more information or to talk about it on the phone or Zoom or email. So, everyone watching, have a good day.